Some places are abandoned for a reason. Shadows move where no one stands, whispers echo in empty halls, and those who enter don't always return the same. Tonight, we step into the world of the haunted and forgotten, where the past refuses to rest and the walls remember everything. Are you ready to face the darkness? Deep in the countryside, hidden behind twisted trees and thick fog, stand the ruins of Blackwood Manor. Once a grand mansion, now nothing but a decaying shell. The walls are cracked, the roof is caving in, and the air is thick with the scent of damp wood and something rotten. But the worst part isn't how it looks. It's what lives inside. The legend of Blackwood Manor is one that no one dares to whisper after dark. Built in the late 1800s by Edward Blackwood, a wealthy landowner, it was supposed to be a place of luxury, but something evil lurked behind those walls. And it all started the night Margaret Blackwood, his wife, vanished. One stormy night, Margaret went to bed as usual, but by morning, she was gone. No screams, no signs of struggle, just missing. Some say she ran away, others believe she never left. Then the whispers started. Servants claimed to hear Margaret's voice calling for help. Cold fingers brushed against them in empty hallways. Doors slammed shut on their own, candles flickered without wind. The sound of faint breathing echoed through locked rooms. One by one, the staff fled, terrified, until only Edward remained. He locked himself inside. The once bright manor became a prison of darkness. No one saw Edward again. Days turned to weeks, weeks to years, until finally, the house fell into ruin, but the haunting never stopped. Travelers passing through report seeing a woman in the broken windows, staring with lifeless, hollow eyes. Some say they hear soft crying from inside the house, a sound so sorrowful it chills them to the bone. Others feel a presence behind them, watching, waiting. But the most terrifying tale comes from a group of teenagers who dared to enter the night of horror. One Halloween night, they sneaked into the manor, their flashlights flickering in the darkness. The air was thick, suffocating. The silence was deafening. As they climbed the grand staircase, a soft whisper filled the air. Leave. The words were barely there, but they felt them. Their breaths hitched, their hearts pounded. Then, bam! The door at the top of the stairs slammed shut. A sudden, icy wind rushed past them. Their skin prickled. Their breaths came out in shaky gasps. Something moved in the darkness. A shadow, shifting, watching. The flashlight beams flickered wildly as they scanned the hallway. Was it just their imagination? Or did the shadows breathe? And then they saw it. At the end of the hall, standing deathly still, a woman in white. Her dress torn, her face pale, her eyes black holes of nothingness. She didn't move. She didn't blink. But she knew they were there. A low hum filled the air, a lullaby coming from the walls. Then the footsteps started, slow, heavy, coming closer. The air turned freezing. One of them gasped, clutching their arm. A handprint, red, burning, appeared on their skin. Then the whisper returned, closer this time. You shouldn't be here. Panic gripped them. They turned to run, but the hallway stretched longer. The door they came through, gone. The girl at the back suddenly screamed. Her flashlight dropped, rolling to their feet. She clutched her throat, her eyes wide with terror. I can't move, she choked. Something unseen held her back. An invisible grip tightening around her wrist, dragging her. With all their strength, they pulled her free. racing toward the staircase. Their feet thundered down the steps, but the walls groaned, as if the house itself was alive, swallowing them whole. They burst through the doors, gasping for air, never daring to look back. But as they reached the road, one of them collapsed. The girl in the back. Her face was drained of all color. Her lips trembled. She could still feel it, a hand, cold as death, gripping her wrist. The haunting never ends. To this day, Blackwood Manor stands untouched. No one dares to go near. The few who do never stay long, because once you step inside, something sees you, something knows your name, and if you're not careful, you may never leave. Deep in the woods, hidden beneath vines and decay, stands the Ravenwood Asylum, a place long abandoned, yet never truly empty. The walls are crumbling, the windows shattered, and the iron gates rusted shut. But even from miles away, a strange humming can be heard drifting through the air, low, eerie, almost like a lullaby. Locals refuse to go near it. They say the asylum is cursed, that those who enter don't come back the same, if they come back at all. Built in the early 1900s, Ravenwood housed the forgotten souls, patients deemed too dangerous for society. They were locked away, their screams swallowed by the walls. The doctors were cruel, their methods twisted, and one by one, the patients disappeared. Then, one night, something horrifying happened. The asylum went silent. No more screams, no more footsteps. Just nothing. When the townspeople arrived in the morning, they found every room empty, beds untouched. The building was left to rot, but the haunting remained. Hikers passing through report hearing whispers floating through the trees, calling their names. Others feel cold fingers brushing their arms, only to turn and find no one there. Some claim to have seen figures in hospital gowns standing by the broken windows, staring with hollow, lifeless eyes. But the worst story comes from a group of ghost hunters who dared to step inside. Armed with cameras and flashlights, they pushed through the rusted gates and into the asylum's darkness. The air was heavy, thick with dust, and something rotten. As they walked through the long, empty halls, a strange ticking sound echoed around them, like an old clock ticking away in the silence. Then the lullaby began, soft, eerie, almost childlike. The sound drifted through the halls, coming from every direction at once. Their flashlights flickered, the air turned ice cold, and then a giggle, a breathy, unnatural laugh, inches from their ears. One of them screamed, spinning around, but no one was there. Then the doors behind them slammed shut. Panic set in. Their footsteps pounded against the floor as they ran, searching for an exit. But the asylum had changed. The hallways stretched longer, the doors twisted into endless corridors. Something was playing with them, and then they saw it. At the end of the hall stood a figure in a patient's gown, head tilted, lips stretched into a smile too wide for a human face. Its eyes, black pits of nothingness. The lights went out. Screams echoed through the asylum, swallowed by the darkness. When the ghost hunters finally stumbled out hours later, their faces were pale, their hands shaking. They refused to speak of what they saw. One of them never spoke again. To this day, Ravenwood Asylum remains untouched. The lullaby still hums through the trees, waiting for its next visitor. And those who are foolish enough to enter they might never find their way back.